Hi, welcome to Walking the Path. I'm going to be talking to people who are on a spiritual journey, who want to share with us their experiences about what they've found on the journey. So if you're interested in spirituality and how you can embed it into your life, come and walk the path with me. So hi, in this episode of Walking the Path, I'm going to be interviewed, and my friend Gary is going to interview me, so you can see what sort of questions I'm going to ask other people. So hi, Gary.
Hey, Chris, how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, fine, thanks.
Good. No, I can't wait to get this started because, as I say, as you said in the intro, you're going to be asking these questions. So it's only fair for me to ask you these questions to start off with. So let's kick off with the big one to start off with. Chris, what does spirituality mean to you?
Well, I see it as being it has two sides to it, if you like. The one side is that the connectedness that we have to everything else in the known universe. We are made of stars, we're stardust and all that, but so is everything else on the planet, all the trees, the rocks and stones and the animals. We are all connected because we are all made of the same stuff. And I think that connection between ourselves as human beings, as well as the connection between ourselves and everything else, is a spiritual connection, and it needs to be amplified. And then if you think about the universe as a whole, then you know that we are just a tiny part of it, and our senses only pick up a tiny part of it. On the electromagnetic spectrum, we just see what is light, the bit in the middle that's light. There's all the infrared and all the ultraviolet out there, so there's bound to be other stuff out there that our normal senses can't pick up. So I think that spirituality is also being connected enough to the universe to be able to pick up other stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of a simple explanation, I guess.
Nice. Has spirituality always played a part in your life, or did it come gradually, or was there one moment that really kind of kick-started it?
Well, it has. But I have to say that I did run away from it in my teens and didn't really come back to it until I was in my 40s. Because when I grew up, my mother was a devout Christian, my father was an equally devout atheist. So, but I did have invisible friends, although they weren't invisible to me, and that made my life interesting, shall we say, growing up like that. But I got really scared of it when I was 17. And I just thought I don't want to be involved with this. Decided that I was going to go off and do my own thing. But, something that you're born with doesn't leave you that easily, does it? So
no.
It always was around, and I always kept having spiritual, weird experiences, usually at a time when I needed to know things or I needed support. So that's sort of kept its hooks in me, if you like. Until I was in my 30s, I was teaching adults with moderate to severe mental health problems, and I had two teaching assistants. One of them was learning aromatherapy at the White Rose School up in Leeds, and I was her case study, and that got me into aromatherapy. Mm-hmm. And the other one, she was an amazing woman, still is. She could walk into the room, and even if people were getting a bit fractious, the room would calm down, and she seemed to exude calm and peace and light. And so I said to her one day, well, can you teach me how to do it? And she said, no, because it's Reiki and you have to be a certain level. But we have a saying, which is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So it will find you. And 10 years later, it did. So it sort of came back to me at a time when I was able to pursue it. If I'd have gone for it before both my parents had died, then I would have felt iffy, if you like, because I still got their influence.
Yeah, you definitely can't push it, can you? It is something that will come to you when you're ready, and as you said, it's ready to present itself.
Yeah. So at the right time, it came.
It's quite interesting you said about when you were 17, and you wanted to kind of go away from that. I can imagine that's quite a scary and confusing time for you.
Yeah, it was. My teenage years at home were not good years either. And as soon as I could, I got my A-level grades and went off to university and discovered beer, men and curries in the same week, and I was away.
Brilliant. let's kind of carry on talking about spirituality and rather than beer and curry, because we can talk about that all day long. Have different people influenced you along your way?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned my friend who told me when the teacher is ready, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. She's called Jeannie, and she's still an influence on me now. She's just an amazing person. She had polio, which left her with one leg shorter than the other, and then she had a car crash, which made it even shorter. So she's got one leg 6 inches shorter than the other. And as she grew up, she got rheumatoid arthritis. So when I met her, she was very physically ill indeed, and Reiki had been the way that she kept going. And she keeps me going. She's about the most positive woman I've ever met. So, so Jeannie up in there still lives up just outside Leeds. Just after I became attuned to Reiki, I met quite by accident another woman called Glenys Rogerson. She sold me, believe it or not, a book on charity law. And we were having an online conversation. I saw that she had a website. So I went on this website, and she was a naturopathic doctor. She trained in naturopathic medicine down in Australia, and she did all sorts of energy therapies and spiritual healing. So I was talking to her about my past spiritual experiences, and she said, well, you're talking to me now about it. Why don't you go and explore it properly now? Now you've got time, and you've been attuned to Reiki, so that's obviously started it. So I spent a few years under her tutelage, which was a real eye-opener, because I hadn't actually gone into it in any big way at all. So that was really interesting. And the third one is Derek, who is a spiritual healer at the Amethyst Centre, who's Welsh and several years older than me, probably about 15 years older than me at least. He is quite an amazing guy. He used to run Villiers Street's spiritualist church until that closed. And then we had the healers come over to the Amethyst Centre rather than the actual worship. But he came over and he took me under his wing. Hopefully, when we get back to opening up, he'll come and work for us again.
Oh, brilliant. And on the subject of healing and mediumship, do you consider yourself having any skills in these? Or if so, have you developed in any kind of way?
I've been a natural healer, and natural spiritual healers are born with it, and I was born with it. And I first recognised this when I was 8, and my mother's washing machine stopped working, and we didn't have any money to replace it. Mum was quite upset, and something said to me, just put your hands on the machine and just stand there a bit. So I did, and it sort of boinged back into life. And she just looked at me and said, so what have you done? I said, I don't know, I just stood here and put my hands on the machine. And she didn't much like that, because she thought, her daughter could never have any gifts like that. It didn't happen to people like us. So that's something I did run away from, because it did scare me. I picked up my mother's fear, I guess, from that.
It makes sense.
Yeah, obviously, when I trained in Reiki, then you train in Reiki healing. So yeah, that's and I do feel very comfortable with Reiki and very comfortable with myself as a healer, as a self-concept. I'm not. I am a medium, but I don't profess to be one. I do have regular visitors, if you like. But yes, I have always had the invisible friends, but they've never been invisible to me. They've always been there.
Of course. Where do you think your spirituality roots lie? Where do you think they come from?
I see myself as having been in this country, in England, for thousands of years as a soul. I've been told of several past lives as a nun, as an abbess, and as something called an anchorite. And these are the people who get walled up next to the altar in churches, and they just get the food passed to them and things like that. And apparently I was one of them, quite a famous one. I don't particularly want to go into all that now, but I have also been told of a past life as what they call a wise woman. The woman that did the births and laid out the corpses at deaths and things like that, and made sure that the crops grew. Yeah, so I do resonate with that. So I do think that my spiritual roots are in this country, people tell me about Atlantis and Lemuria and stuff like that. It's never resonated with me. I thought, no, it's just not me. I am sort of here. I'm an English woman, and I have been for thousands of years.
Nice and fair enough. And we've kind of looked at the past and looked at where it's all come from. But what's next? What's the next part of your journey? Where does it lead? But also, are you investigating anything at the moment?
Everything I'm doing at the moment is very practical, I guess, and concerned with the centre and taking that forwards. A spiritual side, I want to do something called access consciousness bars, which is an energy therapy. I got that lined up to do just after I had my shoulder replaced. But obviously then we went into COVID stuff and that never happened. As far as other spiritual type work is concerned, I'm quite open to what lies in wait for me, if you like. No doubt I might even do some mediumship training. It all depends. I did start to run spiritual development group at the centre, and I'd like to pick that up again because it was teaching me as much as it was teaching everybody else who was there.
Nice. And I think that's the beauty of this podcast and your journey. It is all about the path, like you said in the intro episode, and it is about finding their own path, but using people's experiences as a way of learning and accepting it's okay. It's okay to do that. So, Chris, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for letting me ask the questions to you. Have you got any final thoughts before we close this show off?
What I'd like to say to somebody who is just getting interested in spirituality, basically, is do it. It will enrich your life, and don't be afraid of it. If it resonates with you, then it's right for you. You won't. If you don't think it's for you, then leave it. If it's for you, it'll come back. And remember that you're in charge.
Well, that's quite a powerful thing to finish this episode off. So thank you so much for letting me ask you the questions, Chris. I really hope people listen to this podcast and. If they wanted to support the podcast in any kind of way, how can they? Right.
Well, we have Patreon set up. So if you go into Patreon and search for Walking the Path with Chris Ramsbottom, then we're there. Obviously, we're doing monthly instalments, and we give you sneaky peeks and previews of what we're going to be up to next month. The Amethyst Centre is sponsoring the podcasts. If you go into the Amethyst Centre website, which is www.amethystcentre.com, you'll see you can sign up for our newsletter, and also you can make a donation there via PayPal or by card or bank transfer as well. We've got a YouTube channel, which is the Amethyst Centre YouTube channel. Just go there, look for the Amethyst Centre and subscribe to it.
That's great. Thank you so much again, and please everyone, let's start walking the path with Chris. Take care, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. We've come to the end of the path for today. If you'd like to support the podcast by sponsoring it, please get in touch. Or you can visit our website, www.amethystcentre.com, or our Patreon or Facebook page for Walking the Path. See you next time.